Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers. I'm looking in this particular presentation at a book from the Law Society which affects both barristers and solicitors because it's part of the new legislation, the Legal Services Act 2007. The book itself is called The Companion to the Solicitors Code of Conduct 2007. It's in a new edition by Peter Camp, and there's a Flickr reference to it here if you want to look at the detail on Flickr. The book itself is light, it's very small, it's just over 140 pages. There's a good index at the back. There's a very useful set of abbreviations at the front, and then there are 22 chapters after an introduction, and each chapter is actually relatively small, but it's got a huge wealth of detail which is just what we need for the heavy regulation which we all now have to deal with as practicing lawyers. The book title that we've sort of looked at, The Companion to the Solicitors Code of Conduct 2007, it's a huge amount of words, and what we really wanted to do is to give a flavour for you of what this book is about. So we've decided to call it A Companion to CHERISH for the well-prepared solicitor. And that's exactly what it is. Because if you're like me as a practicing lawyer, I'm quite confused after post-Clementi reforms and the implementation here and there, bits of piecemeal reform, but a lot of regulation and a lot of change. It's difficult to keep up, and in certain areas, of course, it's very important to know what changes there are to the codes of conduct, both for solicitors and, of course, for barristers. However, if you're a solicitor, and it's probably unlikely that you'd be reading this if you weren't, you no doubt either own or have access to the Solicitors Code of Conduct 2007. You've obviously got to be aware of it, and in your professional studies you'll remember some years ago it was nearly always a mandatory requirement for study. Compliance, of course, with the code is the key to its correct application, and the usage and understanding is the key to compliance. Therefore, this is why the companion volume is so useful, especially with the huge amount of detail. There are lots of sections and subsections, but there's a nice amount of cross-reference to help you, and Professor Camp in the introduction has tried very hard to show where these changes and amendments have been coming in. Obviously things may well change from 2010, but we are in the heavy regulation era at the moment. So, since the code came into force on the 1st of July 2007, a considerable number of minor amendments, as mentioned in the introduction, have been made to both the rules and the guidance notes. Obviously we get that information coming through, we see it in the Law Society Gazette and so forth. And by March 2009, the code, rules and guidance notes underwent further substantial amendments to allow for the partial implementation of the Legal Services Act 2007. So say this is a long drawn out thing. We as lawyers, we don't do these things quickly. We think about it and take a bit of time over it. So all the additional changes which we expect to see in subsequent years are obviously coming in at the moment. This book, of course, is something you really must have. So precipitate has been, therefore, the pace of change within the legal services arena in a relatively short period of time that the publication of this second edition of The Companion is nothing if not timely. It identifies and highlights in each of the 22 chapters all the main changes made to the code since the 1st of July 2007, and also those implemented in March 2009, which are sort of key dates, if you like. It also provides guidance within the chapters, covered in just over 100 pages, and also the author, Professor Camp, who's a solicitor and a well-known guy, gives an excellent commentary on the codes, focusing on how and on what basis they were made and how they may apply in practice. This of course is gleaned from his work on the ultimate authority in this field, which is Caudery on Solicitors, which many of you will be quite familiar with. Usefully, each amended rule in this companion is compared with the old one, so you'll have no problem spotting and analysing the difference, at least we hope. The term companion could not therefore be more apt in our view in describing this really quite indispensable reference tool, hot off the press from the Law Society, for the up-to-date and well-prepared solicitor's practice. As we've said and hinted, being quite open about it now, it's a must for the firm's bookcase, and do use the index, which we found particularly helpful, hence our view that this is a companion to CHERISH. Thank you very much, and also thank you Law Society for this and the excellent series of works you have on legal handbooks. Bye bye for now.